Hey, what's up? My name is Andrew, and I'm a student here at the University of Michigan. I'm nearing the end of my freshman year, and I finally got a chance to view my admissions file. This is something that I'd been meaning to do for a while. It was quite easy to set up a meeting, although I set it up all the way back in January, and it's now April, so yeah, it took a while. But this probably had something to do with the admissions office viewing admissions for the next year's incoming freshman class. Or maybe it had something to do with COVID, I don't really know. But regardless, I was patient and here we are. So I'll get to the evaluators' specific comments on my file at the end of this video, but I figured in the meantime, I would go through kind of each step and explain how viewing your admissions file works and what the file looks like. So for those of you that are interested, it's actually quite a formal process to view your admissions file. When you arrive at the meeting, they take you and a few other students that are doing the same thing as you into a boardroom with a long table and a lot of chairs, and they kind of space you out. Now, this is a lot different than how I've heard it described by other people who said it was more like an interview, but this could maybe have something to do with COVID or I don't know. They then made me sign a form saying that this is an official file and you won't take any pictures of it, and probably some other stuff, but I didn't even read the whole thing. After all that, they finally handed us our file, and it was about 10 to 12 pages long in paper that were paper clipped together, and we had a maximum of 45 minutes to look at it. So all of the information that I have about my file is from my memory and from handwritten notes that I have right here because, like I said, they don't let you take any pictures of it, or you can't find like a digital form or anything like that. So the first page of the file just has all your basic information. So I guess I'll kind of take this time to explain what kind of student I was when I applied to the University of Michigan. I applied early action to the College of LS&A, which is one of the few colleges that you can apply to directly at Michigan. It is the largest college and the most common one for people to apply to. The acceptance rate the year that I applied was about 18%. I had a 35 on my ACT with these subsection scores that you can see here, and this was the only score that I reported. I had a 3.7 unweighted GPA and a 4.4 weighted GPA on a 5-point scale that my high school used. My high school does not report class rank, but there were 206 kids in my graduating class. I went to an all-guys private Catholic high school, was elected to my student council for 3 years, including being my senior class student council vice president. I played soccer for all 4 years. I had a few smaller extracurriculars, including some leadership conferences and volunteer work as well. All of this information was listed at the beginning of my admissions file. The rest of the file was divided into two main parts. So the first part was basically just an 8-page printout of everything that was on my Common App, unedited, no comments or anything, just a printout of your essays, a printout of all my extracurriculars, everything that I had to write, kind of each one of the sections. And then the second part was just one page at the end, which had all the evaluators' comments that I have right here, and I'll go over it in just a bit. So, in regards to the 8 pages of my Common App, there's very little that I really need to go over. It was literally just a printout of the Common App. The one thing that was maybe noticeable was because I went to high school during COVID, there was a section that was actually listed titled like community disruption, and it basically outlined what my high school did for remote learning and kind of how they handled the COVID situation. It was actually quite interesting, and I'd imagine this was required to be sent by all high schools so that they can kind of take your COVID grades with a grain of salt. Other than that, there was nothing out of the ordinary that you wouldn't expect. So without any further ado, let's get into the meat of why everyone wants to view their admissions file, to see what the evaluators had to say and what the university had to say about your essays and about your admissions file overall. So again, contrary to what most videos I've seen on the internet and how I've seen this described by other people, I only had 2 evaluators review my application as opposed to what seemed to be the common 3. Again, this could be explained by a multitude of factors, including COVID, or maybe it differs by like the School of Engineering versus Ross or LSA, or something with maybe no staffing in the admissions office. I don't really know. One thing that I thought was interesting about this is they do actually give you the names of the people who kind of filled out the evaluations in your file, and as well as the dates that they filled out their evaluations. Obviously, I'm not going to dox these evaluators, but I will tell you that my 2 evaluations were taken exactly 2 weeks apart. One was on November 4th, and the other was on November 18th of 2020. Now, before I tell you exactly how they ranked me personally, I'll try to explain to you how the ranking system works, or at least how I thought it worked, because they didn't really explain this to us. So this is how I understood it. Every evaluator evaluates your entire admissions file on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the best and 1 being the worst. They come to this score by ranking you individually in each one of the following categories: overall educational environment, overall curriculum, overall academics, your recommendations, your overall community involvement, your essays, and your overall interest into the specific University of Michigan school or college that you're applying to. Now, I'm not sure exactly how these are rated in terms of coming to your overall 1 to 5 score, like if essays are more important than your involvement, but you can kind of take a guess and say that something like maybe essays are probably ranked nearer to the top of like how important they are versus maybe something like your interest in the school. But that's just a guess, because I don't really know. So the weird part of this was they don't rank these scores on a scale like 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 like you'd expect. They really just rank them, giving you just adjectives describing how you scored in each one. Like my file here literally says overall educational environment, excellent, or overall curriculum, outstanding. It doesn't even tell you which adjectives are better, like is excellent better than outstanding, or is it the other way around? Like I don't really know. So let's get into it. Evaluator 1 gave me an excellent on overall educational environment, overall academics, and overall involvement. I got an outstanding on my curriculum and a good for my essays, and an average for my overall interest in the University of Michigan. The ranking of the recommendations is redacted and crossed out because I think when you submit recommendations, you kind of waive your right to view them or view any comments about them. I don't know if this is the case for everyone, but that's how it was for me. So most of these make sense. I took a pretty rigorous curriculum in high school and I had a lot of community involvement and a lot of leadership positions. But the one that really stands out to me is how they rank my interest in the University of Michigan specifically as just average. I'm assuming this score obviously comes from just your Why Michigan essay. And although I didn't really have anything super specific about the school, I've been a Michigan sports fan my whole life. My parents went here. I've gone to plenty of Michigan football games and basketball games. I live only about 20 minutes away outside of Ann Arbor. So I thought this would at least be good enough to get maybe an above average interest, but I guess that probably means they're looking for something a lot more specific, like what specific things in the school you maybe are interested in when you're applying. But again, that's just a guess. I would be curious to see what someone's essay would look like if they got an outstanding score for interest in the University of Michigan. After all that, my score from Evaluator 1 was a 4 out of 5. While there are no specific comments on your essays, which I was very disappointed to find out, I wanted to see what they had to say, they do have kind of a section at the end where they write a few sentences about your admissions file overall, and I'll read you pretty much exactly what mine said. So Evaluator 1 said, I had a strong test score, 11th grade semester 1 grade decline, and average to good, strong feeder high school. I had strong 7th semester grades, and continued interest could support. Now, it was written in a very shorthand way, so I was kind of piecing words together there, but I think you can get the idea of what they were saying. Then, what I thought was interesting is the evaluator literally listed out my classes I took and my grades from the class in my first semester of my junior year, which I'll admit they were right. Those grades were not that great. Those grades include a C I got in AP Chemistry after getting a D- on the midterm exam, or I guess you would call it a final exam at the end of semester 1. That was definitely the lowest grade that I had throughout all of high school. Additionally, I had a B in A Push, a B+ in my honors Latin class, and a few low A's to A-. This was definitely my worst semester in high school, so it makes sense that they would point it out. But it also proves that as long as you're willing to show that you can get better and improve, one semester or one grade does not define you. I was able to recover next semester, which definitely had nothing to do with the fact that COVID hit and classes were all online, because online classes were 100% totally as fruitful and bountiful, and I learned the same amount that I would have in person, and that had nothing to do with my grades getting way better. Anyways, Evaluator 1 finished their comment by saying that both my parents and 2 of my grandparents were alumni, which is true. So now let me move on to Evaluator 2, which honestly, they didn't say much more that wasn't already said by Evaluator 1. In fact, they didn't even list all the categories and they gave a much shorter comment, but I'll still let you know what they said. Evaluator 2 ranked me an excellent in curriculum, involvement in essays. They gave me a very good in academics and overall interest, whatever that means, and they had no comment on the other categories that Evaluator 1 listed, which was a bit strange. Number 2 also gave me an overall file score of 4 out of 5. Here are the rankings of Evaluators 1 and Evaluators 2 side by side if you're interested. So the final comment of Evaluator 2 read, I had a strong test score in good rigor, but downward trend in 11th with C's. Yes, it actually said C's even though I only got 1 C. Not salty about that. Didn't end up mattering. Anyways, prior to second semester. Multiple leadership roles, more average interest in Michigan again. Still holding an early action, but strong 7th semester could bump. Now, I'm not sure what they meant by that part at the end where they said they're still holding an early action. I didn't know if that meant they were holding me as accepted into early action, but waiting for the grades, or if they were holding me to see the grades of whether or not they would bump me into early action acceptance. I'm not sure, but I did end up getting accepted in early action on the first wave, so who knows. Anyways, that's all I have about viewing my admissions file. Hopefully this was helpful if you're looking to apply to the University of Michigan or you're doing applications to some other college. Or if not, I hope you at least found this kind of interesting. I'll leave what I did in the comments to set up this meeting if you're a current student at U of M. It was a pretty easy process, so I'll let you guys know. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe. I upload at completely random times that might be months or days apart, so stay tuned and look forward to that. Feel free to leave any questions about the process in the comments below, and I'll try to respond to them. Anyways, get out of here.